Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we start our budget process, and our first chief is in the chair. So, John, take it away.
Thank you.
I almost said victim.
Thank you. Tonight is public safety night, so to speak. We have a series of the volunteer fire departments coming up about every 15 minutes. We're starting with East Great Plain. We trimmed the budget slightly from the request, but I think it's a fair representation of what East Great Plain needs are for next year, and I'll turn it over to the chief for any explanations and we'll take questions. I don't have anything formally prepared for these next budgets.
Good evening, everyone. Please ask your questions. I'll answer them as best as I can if it's possible.
No opening statement?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I wasn't
Chief,
prepared for that.
put the mic a little closer because of the...
Sorry about that. I was a little ill-prepared for the opening speech. I had a bunch of stuff going on today, personal issues and stuff. So East Great Plain had a fairly busy year last year. We did approximately 825 runs, about 50 active members, 10 to 12 brand new members, a couple of firefighters and firefighter one, and then some other EMS personnel bridging over from an EMR to an EMT. This year we're starting off busy already with the COVID virus. Our PPE status is good, and our members are being very vigilant, wearing their masks at the firehouse and at the calls and out in the general public and such, with the social distancing, etc. Without further ado, I'll have any questions, or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and answer as best I can.
Alderman DeLucia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Keith, actually, I should address you, Chief. Is there anything in your budget or in your capital that you would like to highlight for us tonight?
Sure, I could highlight our biggest thing that is right now in our capital is we highlight, I'd really highlight is the central air and heat system for our building. We're in the process of right now doing a renovation in our hall that's been long overdue with an asbestos abatement project that just finished up, and we're moving forward. So if this goes forward, this will just be an added benefit to the station, and hopefully some future savings down the road with energy and such, because we use approximately 9 to 10 window air conditioning units. Some of the other highlights, some of the battery-operated rescue tools on the capital budget, that'll be another tool complement for us on our rescue truck. As you guys know, we run a lot of calls on the 395. We're up there way too often, unfortunately. And this is just another set of tools that will help us do our job efficiently and better down the road.
Second question, thank you. Second question is, you mentioned it, or it's mentioned in the background information. You said it a moment ago. Over 800 calls, and that's been pretty much a running total for a while now. And I know that this is going to be part of our overall conversations in public safety, but at that pace, how's the membership holding up?
Our membership is holding up very well right now. Every month, the last couple of months, we've taken some new members in, even with the COVID and everything. But our membership's holding up very well right now. Right now, nothing has significantly happened. We had a couple of members a few months ago that had the virus and were on a DL list, if you will, for a short bit. But everyone, I think I've got approximately 35 members that have been fully vaccinated. And I got a couple more that are receiving their second shot this week or next week. But right now, we're still holding our own and doing well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other members? Questions? Alderman Wilson?
I mean, it's a question I asked last year, and I just continue to always ask. The amount, of course, that's proposed, does it fit? What your department's goals are? If yes, why? If not, why not?
No, the budget fits, it's nice. Last year, we had a couple of unforeseen expenditures that, again, as were unforeseen, and luckily we had the little extra in there to help. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year. Our goal is to continue progressing forward, and get a better department of training, up to date with the latest and greatest in equipment. Keeping the trucks going. Like I said, with this budget here and some of the stuff in the capital budget, this is certainly going to help us achieve those goals.
Excellent, thank you.
Other members? Yeah.
Just
Mark?
We'll do this, sorry. On the issue of, morale and response and, staff, do you, at this point, are you getting many retones for service?
Right now, no. Right now, no. We haven't. I don't think we've had a retone off the top of my head, and it's been I don't know. It's been a while. Exactly how long I asked, I couldn't tell you, but it's been a while.
Nobody keeps track of that, though, do they?
No, not typically. I'm pretty fortunate where, for the most part, during the daytime, like a lot of volunteer fire companies, there's not a lot of members around. I'm pretty fortunate where I have a pretty decent crew that's around during the daytime. That helps. And then when they go to work, the guys that work in the daytime are now around at nighttime. So
Excellent.
we have not had a retone. Like I said, it's been a long time off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, usually, you get the EMS lift assist kind of calls and stuff like that. That happens sometimes. I mean, I spend a fair amount of time listening to scanners just because of the nature of my job. But so, I mean, I hear enough of them around, let's put it that way. Just so, that's the only reason I'm asking. I'm not, trying to.
Knock on wood.
I'll probably ask that of everybody just to see where they're at, Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, members? Thank you, Chief.
Everyone have a great night.
Yes, thank you. I meant to thank you on the front end.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The next department is Laurel Hill. Here you go. You're all alone back there. Come on up.
Hi, Chief.
I don't have any comments on Laurel Hill.
Yes, see.
I'll take any questions. Chief, do you have any a comment you'd like to make?
No, I think we're doing, overall, we're doing well. I know Milton mentioned, Chief Milton mentioned membership. I know that's a going theme probably going forward, so I'll just bring that up now. Membership is strong. We actually got 7 new members over the last 4 months. We have high hopes for them. That puts us to about 44. We have a dispatching system, which I'm told my deputy keeps telling me on a daily basis that we're running out of spots for them. So I guess that's a good thing that we have to get more spots because we have too many people for our current spots working. So that's a good thing to have. We do have people who are in Fire 1, who are in EMT, finishing up. Obviously last year with COVID, it changed the way we responded to calls. We weren't going to some calls, brought our numbers down. And that's it was life back then. And it's life going forward. We're still under the COVID warnings. We don't go to certain calls, as does any other department. That's set aside by medical control for Bacchus. It's not our decision, it's his decision. He ultimately controls that. So, other than that, I mean, we're doing pretty well. The trucks in service from last year, and we're going strong. I'll open up to questions if you guys have any.
Members? Yes, Alderman Delusha.
Chief, thank you again for being here tonight. And First question, the same as I asked Chief Milton. Is there anything in your line item or your capital budget that you would like to highlight for us tonight?
So every year for the capital items, I always try to make a priority list as the city manager and the comptroller obviously, the first one's always gear. It is a big number I put in every year. We do have a standard of how we replace gear, so we try to keep up with that on a yearly basis. There were a couple of years in the past where we were getting 1 or 2 sets, which put us behind, which is why the number is a little higher this year. Usually we try to get 6 or 7 a year to keep up with our numbers. But we fell behind in years past, so now we're trying to play the catch-up game, which is why it's a little higher now than it has been, if you look back. So obviously gear is always the number 1 priority for us. It's always going to be that and SCBAs. We can't do those 2 things. Without those 2 things, it's tough to do our jobs. And then the only other thing I want to mention it's in the capital items, but it's not funded, is the station. We all talked about the study. It is a priority too. Our station we're growing out of it and have been for years. So obviously it's not funded, I'm not pushing to get it funded, but I just want everyone to understand where that came from in the study. They came out and looked at it and were surprised that we fit trucks in there, quite honestly. We do it well, but we are running out of space, and I just want everyone to understand that.
In terms of the turnout gear, so at what point do your new members actually get turnout gear?
So new members get turnout gear when they join. So they get some type of gear. Not the newest stuff, it's always old stuff. So the standard is if you're an interior firefighter, you have a set of gear that's less than 5 years old. Once it gets 5 years to 10 years, that's the stuff new members get. So it's not the best, but it's good enough to be a starting probationary member. Once you become a firefighter, you then immediately get a new set of gear. So once you get that certification, you get the gear.
And so the increased load on gear in this year's budget reflects the fact that you're having new members join, so more stuff is trickling down. I hate to use that phrase, but that's what it's. Right?
I've had numerous conversations with my deputy, because he's the one who takes care of the gear, who tells me on a daily basis we're running out of gear. We just ordered a lot of gear. We're literally waiting for it to come in. So some of our new members that just joined within the last 3 weeks, there's 2 of them, we're trying to get them gear. But I have to wait until new gear comes in so that we can then turn it over, because I can't spend $3,600 on a brand new person who just showed up. It's just not fiscally responsible. So that's where we're at. And that's also why there's an increase in gear from years past.
I mean, it is an issue. The price of gear has doubled over the last 10 years or so. Now, as you see, the unit cost is about $3,600 per outfit, and so the money doesn't go as far as it used to. It's $36,000, but it only buys the 10 units, so it is an issue. There's a lot of inflation in fire department gear for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but it's always been like that. Maybe because there's not that much competition in it or whatever, but.
And every couple of years, we do try other gear, trying to get the best price we can. We just started going to a company called Firedex. It's another brand. It's a little cheaper, offers us the same protection, and it saves us money, but it still costs, with helmets and everything else, $3,600 per.
Well, and this might be getting down in the weeds a little bit too far for budget hearing, but and nothing against this company, but I'm always concerned when the cheaper company comes in, all the things that you say are true, but it only lasts 4 years instead of maybe 7, something like that.
So we don't buy, personally, I don't buy anything until it's been tested by other places. The year we got has been tested by Bigger, FDNY, Los Angeles, the place who does, companies that do 700-800 fires a year, test this gear before it ever comes down and trickles down to us. So it's not something that like some company just shows up and says, hey, we have this brand new gear, you wanna try it out? We never go with that stuff. People have tried it, we've never gone with it. It always has to be with other people who rigorously test it before we'll even, shipment sells it, they won't even bring it to us until other people have tested it.
And last question, I promise. Are we still working, and again, this is probably more of a Public Safety Committee question, but we always forget to ask it, or I always forget to ask it. Are we still working toward every member having 2 sets so that if you have back-to-back calls, right, and then one's in the clean, not the cleaners, but the machine, the machines that we have to clean, to clean them and decon them, right? Then the member's still able to respond to calls.
So, to answer your question, yes, I would love to have 2 sets of gear for every member. I'm about 40 sets short. So, in order to do that. Currently, right now, me and my deputy chief are the only ones who have 2 sets. Everyone else has 1. We have spares in the back for when people need to clean their gear. They then get put in a second set. We piece it together for the 24 hours while they clean it, put it back in service, and then the next person does the same thing.
Okay.
So we have a system to clean it, make sure people aren't using dirty gear. But yes, I would love to have 2 sets of gear for every member, but I'm gonna need a lot more money for that.
Because I just remember in our conversations at this time last year, we were talking about working toward that as a goal.
Yep.
Right? I understand it. The cost of that would
It's
be prohibitive.
$3,600 a set.
Right.
So, I would need a lot more than I currently have, and I'm not willing to stand up here and say that I need $250,000 for gear currently. I'm gladly working towards it, but it's gonna take years to do. I'm not willing to just do it overnight. Because we have other things we can spend money on before we get to that point.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. All the members, Alderman Nash.
Quick question I have is, do you have a washer and dryer at your unit, at your
Yes.
station? You do?
Yep, I have a washer and dryer. I got through a grant, actually before I became chief. So 13 years ago, I got it through the federal government. We have it serviced every year, and it's running great for us. So as long as it keeps doing that, we're good.
Yeah, those aren't cheap either.
No, I got the grant. The grant was for $21,000.
That was my only question, thank you.
Alderman Wilson.
The only question I have, and same question I have, Chief Milton, is, are you okay with the proposed amount? Does it fit your goals, mission of what your department's trying to do? Yes? If not, why not?
The answer is yes. It does fit our goals. Obviously, given unforeseen problems, we can live within the means that are given to us. Obviously, I can't see problems that I don't know about right now.
Absolutely.
We have them every year. I try to limit them, but given any major problems, we should be able to live with what we have. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Gould.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here tonight. One question. In your capital budget, you've got $50,000 for radio equipment. What kind of radio equipment are
So that's
purchasing?
That's to replace mobile radios and some portable radios that are outdated, that are broken. We're trying to keep them up to date with the system we currently have. Obviously, when this budget was originally presented, there was no study. So I don't know what the future holds, and obviously we'll take that in consideration before we make any purchases. But we have mobile radios that we're spending money to keep going that we need to replace, and that's what this money was for.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Just on the issue of the station addition, where the heck would you put an addition?
That's a very good question. So we own the property from sign to sign. But as some council members know, that there's a rock ledge that we're currently fighting with.
Dynamite can fix that?
What?
Dynamite can fix that?
Yeah, well.
No, half of it is fixed, we just have to fix the other half.
Yeah, so,
Might blow up the station, though.
that is a good point. We've had engineers come out and take a look. We can go up, but we can't go out. And we can't go out towards the road because the state has come and marked 14 inches, saying that's eminent domain from the corner of the station on the top of Route 12. So 14 inches is eminent domain, we can't touch it. The other way, we put it so our trucks can't get out of the station. So we're kind of stuck. It's a good question.
I thought part of the main issue was, having bigger bays and stuff,
Yeah.
so it doesn't look like that's really an option there then.
It'd be a tough option, yes. Years ago.
You might be able to give you
Mayor Nystrom might be able to remember. It was Mayor Lathrop, I believe, at the time, looked at other places. We actually went out for a grant. They wanted us to be able to break ground in 30 days, and that wasn't an option. But there was other places. Gentile wanted us to move to the state hospital property back in the day. There isn't one solution. There's going to have to be a long conversation about how that goes.
Yeah, because it's really more of an issue, we'll build a new station, I really believe that, so.
That's why I'm not.
Just because of the location and the issues that you just outlined,
That's why I'm not pushing for it right now. I know it's the conversation we can have in the future. But right now, just so everyone is aware of it, that's all.
All right, no, appreciate that, thank you.
Is there a parcel of land across the street? 8 acres, I believe, was the amount?
I believe it's 9, but yes.
It's 9, okay.
Yep. The city just put, that's where they put their gas main.
There's a gas main that runs through there, yes.
There is some wetlands issues.
Yep.
But that's where, if you're thinking back to Mayor Lathrop,
Yep.
that's where he was looking. Yes.
That was the site, yeah,
Yes.
okay. And that main runs up towards the school?
It runs directly, yep.
Yep.
It runs up and then it turns left and it also goes into my neighborhood.
Yep, yeah. Okay, thank you. Other questions? Alderman Gould.
I just want to go back to the rock wall for a minute. The portion that's done looks great, but are you working towards getting the rest of that completed? Because I see issues coming if it's a lot of rain or whatever, that hillside is, I think, I'm not an engineer and I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, but I think that could become an issue.
I have had a meeting with City Manager Salomon about that, and he was going to get in contact with the city engineer. I don't know where that currently stands. There is a quote for doing that portion of it as well, but I don't know if there's an update currently.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
You good?
Good.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Peace. Thanks, Chief.
Hey,
The next budget is Ockham Volunteer Fire Department.
He's not here yet.
Looks like, why don't, Ockham is here?
He's here?
Are they in the holding pen?
Oh, he's in the bullpen, he's in the,
Bullpen, okay.
oh, here he is right now. Here he comes.
This is a bullpen, yeah, we have that for relief pitchers and.
you know what we should
We have
do?
refreshments in there.
What we should do is, if the next time we buy a fire truck, is tell the fire truck company, we want turnout gear for every seat that's in the fire truck.
Yeah, but the
Included
fire
it.
company doesn't.
No, they can buy it from, listen, people buy stuff from other people all the time. So when we get the bid for a new fire truck, say, hey, listen, we need 3 turnout gears to fit the fire truck, put it in. I mean, we can make any kind of negotiations. They're not gonna, listen, some of these fire truck companies don't build a fire truck that we buy from them either. They go out and subcontract it to some, they subcontract the chassis, the engine, whatever.
Right.
They don't buy it, they don't build it all themselves, they may assemble it. But we should think about adding that in. And you get 3 to a truck, whatever you get, when we order a truck, we want this turnout gear added in, throw it in.
Instead of chrome wheels, maybe.
Yeah, you want us to buy your truck? You want us to, you want us to pick you to build the truck, put the fire truck?
So we're gonna go off the rails right now, but your idea is admirable. Here's the thing, all right? And back me up if I'm wrong, okay? I'm gonna be taking a lead, okay? The gear's not one size fits all. So,
No, but they can do vouchers. The company itself that's building the truck can put a voucher out for them to buy the fire gear from whoever they choose to buy it from. But put it in as an incentive to buying the truck from them. Car dealerships do it all the time. Truck dealerships do it all the time. Go to Peterbilt and buy a Peterbilt truck and get how much you can get the dealer to throw in to buy that
wait a
truck.
minute, you mean I was supposed to get turnout gear when I bought my pickup truck?
No, you know what I mean. You know that something like you're spending $1 million on a friggin' truck.
I get you.
Guarantee it. They'll throw $3,600 at you.
I get you. No, and you're right. You're right.
You can build anything,
Right.
but it might be a hard sell. You don't get something for nothing.
Everything's a hard sale, but you gotta work it. And John does a good job working it.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
Night, Aaron.
I know, I went off topic. I apologize.
That was easy.
The next department is Ockham. I will note that this is one of the rare budgets where basically the budget that we recommended is about the budget that the chief requested, give or take, about $500 or $600. So Ockham always, not that the other departments aren't, but Ockham is very frugal with their budget and is reflected in what we recommended, which was about what they asked for.
Thank you.
Chief, floor is yours. Any opening statement or things you want to share? Okay.
Carol, just pull the microphone a little bit closer to you, please. Or sit a little closer to Scott.
In the future, he will probably be taken over to me because I will be starting cancer treatments. So he will be dealing with city council, public safety and all that. Other than that, the budget that you see before us, we can work with it, not a problem. We actually thought we were going to get less than what that was, and we were already starting to make contingency plans to fix what we needed to and let the other go. So, that's my job, that's frugal. Go for vendors that are not real cheap, but cheap enough so that we can stay with it. So, that's how we align everything.
Alderman Gould?
Good evening, Chief. Good evening, Deputy. Thank you for being here tonight. Couple of questions. How's your membership doing? Your roll's full?
No, we have 55 members that can enroll. That's the top of our roster, and we have 42 now. And we have 3 applications, from what I understand, pending review. So, and the problem is, we don't have your, that's the big issue right now. We're having a full year that is 5-6 years outdated. So, on their probationary period, all they are is ground support. So, it's about that loss.
And how many members do you have at fire school right, do you have any members at fire school right now?
We have. Yeah, just one in fire, one right now.
Okay.
We have a bunch just complete, fire 1, fire 2, EMG, and fire patrol.
Oh, great. And in your capital budget, you've been funded for 5 sets of full gear.
Right.
Will that help put a dent in your deficit?
Well, with that, it'll give our interior people a second set of gear, And the second set of gear they have now will be made to go to the people we have coming in.
So that it will meet your needs with the 5 new sets of gear? Okay, and last question, how are you doing with any issues with PPE supplies?
We're doing good. We have quite a bulk supply. Matter of fact, some of the departments have been reaching out to us to take it tomorrow, so they'll get here too. So we trade along.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Nash.
Chief, first of all, best of luck with your treatments, and if there's anything, I'll speak on behalf of the public safety. If there's anything that you need from us during this difficult time in your department, please let us know, and we'll do whatever we can to help you through that period. Do you have a washer and a dryer?
We have a washer.
You have a washer, no
Yeah,
dryer.
It does 2 sets of gear at a time. That's it.
And how do you dry it?
What's that?
How do you dry it?
We dry them in the furnace room,
Okay,
so they hang and dry.
thank you, sir.
Other members? Alderman Bettencourt.
Yeah, I just one question about your capital request, the 10,000 for the key fob entry system. What, are you just talking about for one door here, the main door, or?
Well, Scott's been doing that, so I'll let him handle that.
No, so what this would do, it would accomplish 3 different doors, 2 downstairs and then 1 upstairs. And we had reached out initially to one company and they quoted us at $7,000 for 1 door. But they were slightly overpriced on a lot of their stuff and didn't allow the things that we needed. So looking around at other companies, $10,000 fit a little bit better for the doors that we needed.
Yeah, I was going to question that actually, seeing as I'm in that kind of business. So you might find that, especially if there's stuff running to different doors, you need to link them all usually, and it becomes a little costly on the install, that's all.
Right.
So I just to be prepared for that possibility, that's all. So, all right?
Appreciate it.
If you need any help, let me know. I'll be happy to come.
Oh, definitely.
All right.
Alderman DeLucia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carol, echo comments, and I know the entire council feels this way, and again, if you need anything, and it doesn't have to be about this, all right, let us know. All right? Really, best of luck. And keep you in my thoughts. So, Scott, welcome aboard to the big table, the grown-up table, I guess. What do you call it, right? The knuckleheads, I mean. So, all kidding aside, a question I've been asking each of the chiefs so far, is there anything in your budget, whether it's your line item budget or your capital, that you would like to highlight for us tonight? You did speak about your turnout gear, and that seems to me, I'm interpreting that as really your biggest need. And so if that's it, that's okay. And
So I'll speak on that part.
sure.
I don't know, can you hear me now? So over the last few years, we've been able to accomplish getting some of the newer gear for a lot of the interior guys, which has been great because for a while we had stuff that was getting outdated and we were able to update a lot of it. And with all the cancer prevention stuff, we were able to put into the budget and get second set of gear for a lot of the interior guys. So like the Chief said earlier, we do have some new guys that come in that don't have the gear. So some of the stuff that us as the interior have been wearing, that are getting a little more beat up, maybe questionable whether we should be wearing it in or not, but are still suitable for ground support. We've been passing that along to the new guys and upgrading the stuff that's in here. 5 sets right now is feasible, but over the last year we've had 10 new members or so. It just depends on how many apply that we need to look at. So projecting out 5 new members is where we're at now. Maybe in the future that might actually go up a little bit more.
So you said that you had the washer but not the dryer, and you use in the furnace room. What do you do in the summertime when it's humid as heck and furnace room?
The furnace runs a lot more all the time. In the building, so it's constantly running and runs out gas, natural gas.
So, but I know it's an obvious statement to make. Your world would be a better place if you just had the dryer. right? Especially when you're short gear, right? And you gotta turn it around faster, agreed, right? I mean,
If we go to a structure fire, what happens is, if you're getting dirty, you got 8 guys that get really dirty, they have to take turns two at a time to wash the gear and then dry it. They have seconds, that's the wind do. But it would be easier if you had these bigger washers to do 5 sets at a time, and a dryer at max.
yep,
The washer we have now is all 15, 16 years old. That's how long it's on. And we have unemployment that bring themselves a lot of people out there too. So big load on that.
makes sense. Last question, are you actively, and I hate the word push, but trying to progress your newer folks to become certified to do interior work in structure fire? Because I know that can, depending on time of day and what day of the week, that can be a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody, right? Can you talk a little bit about what your efforts are towards that, and if that's having an impact on your budget?
Well, this fits on the fire study because we talked to,
The McGrath Group,
yeah,
Street, Captain's, Chief Street?
the HR department. We talked to her. And
This is
she,
Yeah, right,
she enlightened us on a few things that we could put into our agenda, one is which probationary members have to meet a certain criteria in their probationary period. So, and one of them is go to fire one. So either that or take, if you want to go into fire one, at least EMR or EMT. So, that comes out of the training budget. So, we've got the one for this year about used up. We had a lot of people last year.
good. That's all the questions I have, thank you.
Yeah. Alderman Betcourt, please.
Yeah, Chief, just one thing, or, maybe the deputy chief can answer this, I don't know. On the issue of, I think you said 42 you have on the roster right now?
42 people, yeah.
Yeah, so of those, how many you have one in training now, so including that person, how many are firefighter one certified at least?
Top of my head, trying to remember. 18. Close. Yeah, someone around 18.
And of the rest, how many are probably the type of person that you're going to have, that you're going to send to firefighter one training in the future?
Right now, we have a few of the probationary members that just got in, and they're working on their stuff right now while we're doing drills. So I would say in the next year, we're probably gonna send another 4 or 5 at a minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Our goal is to have everybody fire one or fire two and EMT. That's our goal.
Alderman Wilson.
It's a good goal, I'm not questioning, I was just wondering what this, status was overall versus the total number of people, that's all. But thank you, you answered my question.
How are you, sir? Again, echoing the same sentiments of my colleagues here. Anything you need, feel free to reach out to us. The only question I have, I've asked every department, is knowing that your budget, of course, does this number meet your goals? If yes, why? If not, why not?
It will meet our goals. We actually, like I said, in my opening statement, we actually didn't think we were going to get that amount. We already have a contingency less money, so that we do. But now the way it is, this budget is what we're going to work with. Very doable, and we can get a little more accomplished around the station where we wouldn't have had it.
Okay. And then the only other question I had is, you've pretty much got a steady when it comes to building repairs and maintenance. Do you have any big maintenance or repair projects at the station this year coming up that you are hoping to get accomplished?
As of right now, I have some vendors that have given me prices on put the meat in the stairwell when you go into the hall. That's always cold. So I'm replacing that door right there, because that's a big drain on the energy bill that we have. The bulkhead out back, that also to be replaced. And to finish the downstairs bathroom, so it's handicap accessible. It's been a long time coming, and Prime Electric is going to take care of that for us.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Welcome, Scott.
You all have a good evening.
You too, sir.
The next department is Tampaville. The chief is here. Please come up, chief. Thank you. The Tampaville department was an increase in funding from a previous year. It obviously didn't receive all of the funds requested by the chief. We made some adjustments in our average, 5-year average type of situations on expenditures. I'll defer to the chief if he has an opening statement and any other comments. Then we'll take any questions you might have.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you got out to enjoy the warm weather today. We submitted the budget probably about 8 months ago. We've always been extremely fiscally prudent when it comes to spending the city's money and the taxpayers' money. So we thought we'd put together a pretty accurate budget of what we were looking for. We tried to outline everything with justification. Other than that, we feel that we'll be able to make do with what we have.
Alderman Nash.
Good evening, Chief. 2 questions. Do you have a washer and dryer?
Yes, actually, that was just purchased through some recaptured funds and just installed over the last 6 months.
Okay.
There's a gear water heater extractor and a gear dryer. You can give me the total price of that project.
I'll just make sure I'm trying to figure out who all has one.
We do, because prior to that, I was taking everybody's turnout gear in my personal vehicle to work and watching it there.
And the other question I have is I saw in the capital improvement that you were looking for a parking lot extension. Could you explain that for me, please?
So, with everything that I do, I believe doing things in phases to minimize the cost impact to the taxpayers, the residents, such as our SCD bottle replacement. We have to replace 48 bottles, but if we buy 60 here, it's a lot smaller enough to craft it than to buy 48 bottles at once. The parking lot, we've had about 8 spots for roughly 40 members. We've had members had their vehicle struck or parked on the side of the road while in force of they were legally parked as a service to the citizens, and they were on their own. So we're just trying to get the traffic off of it.
Now, they did open up a little bit for you, so you
We
can.
did.
Okay, so my question is, where does the 600,000 come from? Where was that?
So what that does is, all that did is we took down the fence, the erected fence. We still have poles to move, generator to move, shed to move. The poles, the poles in view is already reset. We're in the process of trying to find the funds to get the lights for the basketball courts where they belong, not the parking lot. The emergency generator would have to be moved. We worked closely with John Paul prior to the start of COVID to lay out what we felt would be an adequate parking lot design. The entrance has to be moved. There is, unfortunately, I'm not old enough to know what's under the ground there, so there is a lot of ledge in that area. We're hoping they don't have to last. That's a 50-50 shot. So like I said, the generator has to be moved, the shed's got to be moved, the generator has to be mounted on a concrete slab. And then you have to run the natural gas plumbing and everything all back out. So the other issue is when they redirect the entrance to the parking lot, that's where the primary service to the building comes in. So once we take it off that pole and move it to the new pole, you have to upgrade it and it has to meet the code, not the code that was from 50 years ago.
Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate that.
Members? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here tonight. My first question is there anything in your budget, either line item or capital, that you would like to highlight? And if it's the parking lot project, then we could talk about that, but there's...
Well, you know, we've always made do with what the city has given us. We had a 5, 10, and 20-year plan when I took over in 2008. We've had to make a few adjustments, but over the years we've been able to reach our goal for one way or another. Either we got a little bit of money from capital, or we had some money left over building the grounds, we were able to move something around. You know, the parking lot project has been ongoing. I don't want to do phases. I think that's the best thing for the blocks, so that everybody stays low. Other than that, I mean, Joe, I really, what are you looking for?
Well, I'm just asking you, what's the number one thing that you put in your budget that you would like to highlight for us?
Yeah, I mean, the parking lot expansion. That's the big thing. We're making do with it now. We have some temporary fill put down. We have to have an area filled in because when the snowplow came over the grade, we need a really nice divot there. So, we can work with it, we can live with it, but it is something that's going to have to be addressed. It was addressed in the fire service study. I mean, everything else, normal stuff.
So, Alderman Nash asked you where the $600,000 price tag came from, and you gave a list of all the things it needed to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we're looking at about $350 to $400 for the paving, drainage, and stuff like that.
No, I don't. I'm not asking you for a line. I'm saying how or who generated those estimates?
John, when we met with utility, Public Works, John Paul came up with about $350 to $400,000. I contacted an electrician, gave me a price of $75,000 to relocate the primary and do all the upgrades there. So that puts us right around $500,000. And I did not contact the plumber for the gas line because I didn't know if they had to flash or do anything else. So it was roughly, best guess we could come up with was about $600,000. I would rather have more and then turn it back than have to come to you guys and say, you need another $150,000 to finish the project. Budget's tight, if you don't have the money, the project gets hung out there or you're not prepared for it. It's much easier to, as bad as it sounds, to overfund it, get the bids, turn the project back to get the project completed, in my opinion, turn the money back over to you guys.
That doesn't sound negative at all,
No.
because you always build in a healthy contingency in a project where you're going to dig in the ground and you have no idea what you're going to find.
At least 10.
Right.
Chief, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm getting text messages that they can't hear you on the mic. I'm sorry, they said you pull it closer to you or something. I'm fine with me, but,
Bring the mic closer, please. Thank you.
sorry about that, I apologize.
All right.
That's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening, Chief. The only question that I have, I've asked every department, is this number, does it fit your goals? If yes, why? If not, what would need to change?
So even with the cuts that were made, we feel we can still provide the same adequate service. Unfortunately, some areas, some departments, different professions, if they're not fully funded, they say, we're not going to do this. They literally don't go out and do it. Fire service, we don't have that luxury. We still have to have our outreach to the children, we did prior to COVID, and we still have to be able to roll out the door when there's an incident. So, if there's any issues, we've reached out to John and Josh in years past. We're kind of lucky that we had such a good working relationship.
Absolutely, thank you.
Alderman Gould?
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here tonight. Where's your membership roster stand at? Well, how many members do you have right now?
We are currently at 42. We've lost some people over the last year or so. Some of it was due to COVID, some of it was due to better job employment. I took a big hit, I lost 5 to the state of Vermont. But we're at about 42.
And how many probationary members do you have right now?
We have 3.
And anybody at fire school?
2. We have 2 that are starting fire school.
Okay, and, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I heard the question asked about firefighting 1 earlier. When you're on probation, you have a series of goals you have to attain, and within 1 year before you come off probation, you have to completely pass a firefighter 1 class. If not, you don't get off probation. The department currently sets at about 98% of the membership is fire 1 or above.
How's your PPE supply?
For COVID, PPE supply performance is actually pretty good. We made several pickups from the state over time. In the early days, we didn't have enough. We made some swaps with some other departments. They had too many N95 masks. We didn't have any. So we took a ride around halfway across the state to get a swap. So, but we're doing pretty good with that.
Okay, and my last question, in the capital budget, you're getting 12 sets of turnout gear. Will that give your interior firefighters 2 sets of gear?
Yes. Turnout gear per NFPA is rated for 10 years. At the 5-year cycle, we purchase the new gear and their remaining gear goes as a set of spares. They've already gotten 5 years out of 5 years of wear on the stuff that they've had. So it just moves it kind of to the back line.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a follow-up real quick. How are the new trucks? The 2 trucks?
Very good.
They're working out great?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alderman Bettencourt?
Chief, just to clarify, you said 98%. So are you saying like 41 of your 42 are in school or in the completed firefighter 1?
Yep.
Or better?
Yep.
Oh, excellent. All right, thank you.
Any questions? All set. Thank you, Chief. Good to see you.
The next department is Yantic, and Chief is here, Chief Blanchard. This is another budget that basically we tried to fund it at the requested level, and it is within about $1,000 of the request.
Chief, any opening statement or thing you want to share?
No, any questions from the council?
Okay. Members? Alderman Wilson.
Good evening, Chief. So first question that I've asked each department, this budget does, even though it's close to what your request was, does it meet the goals of your department? Yes, no, why or why not?
Yes.
Okay. The second question that I have is I see sizable amount, of course, for building repairs and maintenance. What are some of the big projects that have to be done in the building?
I can go through it in detail and like spreadsheet, what we
Absolutely.
expect to do. But I don't know if you've ever been to the station. It's constructed in 1902, and it takes an extensive amount of care. So we're continuously painting areas, we try to replace windows as we can. And there's a lot of upkeep at the station. The boiler is a steam boiler. We had a failure this year that cost about $2,200. That was unexpected. So what we're doing is we're adding a water conditioning system to help prevent issues like that in the future as part of that package.
Okay.
We are scheduled to replace the rug in the conference room upstairs that is probably almost 30 years old. I mean, it's been clean, but it's got severe wear marks. We got to replace it. Got overhead door we got to replace that's in there for the annex building. We've repaired it several times. That's part of it. And there is a set of double doors in the shed that have to be replaced. And then just general upkeep items that we do every year, such as, seal coat and lock, stuff like that.
Excellent. And then the only other question that I have is, from your budget, what is a main priority, whether it be in the capital improvement part or your main budget that is a focal point for this fiscal year coming up?
Well, we try to prioritize firefighter safety. So we make sure everything's got printout here is up to date, current, size corrected. And then we make sure we get apparatus and equipment for them to do their job. And that's all captured in our budget.
Excellent. Thank you.
Alderwoman Gould?
Good evening, Chief Blanchard. Thank you for being here. Your membership stands at how many?
58, and I have one on deck for next month.
And how many probationary members do you have?
One at this time.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. And how many members are at fire school?
For any class or a specific class?
No, any class.
A rough number would be probably 4 right now, but that number fluctuates throughout the year.
Okay. And on page 91, it says that you have 95% of your firefighters have state certification. That's
correct. The number is probably actually higher.
That's excellent. PPE supply is
Supply is adequate at this time.
okay. You're getting turnout gear in your capital budget. Will that give all of your interior firefighters a second set of gear?
I don't think we'll actually get turnout gear this year.
All right, I'm sorry. So do your firefighters have 2 sets or 1, your interior firefighters?
Not all of my interior firefighters have 2 sets. The majority of them do.
Okay,
We just made a large purchase through 2 sources of capital funding, and when that order is shipped and completed, which expects to be within the next month, then I will probably have close to 80-85% compliance with 2 sets per interior guy.
okay. And last question. The exhaust system, where's that going to be put in?
The money that is in the capital portion of the budget for the vehicle exhaust system will protect 3 of the 5 bays at the firehouse.
And what are we doing about we're expecting that maybe next year in the capital budget, we'll do those other 2 bays, or?
The 2 bays that are in the main firehouse physically are not wide enough to accept the system. So therefore, we don't have the ability to put a vehicle exhaust system in those 2 bays.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Nash?
Chief, good evening. Do you have a washer and dryer?
Our washer was installed last week, and it will be commissioned on Thursday of this week.
Okay. No dryer?
Yes.
You-
it will be
okay.
commissioned at the same time.
No, I just wanted to make sure you had both, that's all. And the other question I have is, and maybe this might be a city manager question more than yours, but I'll ask you it first and we'll go out from there. I noticed in the capital budget, you asked for the pavement of the parking lot, which was 89,000, and you needed I know you've been talking about this oil tank for like ever, and that's 80,000. So was this prioritized by you, or was it something that the city manager did? Because my question is, would you rather have the tank removed or the pavement parking lot repaved?
Well, they're both a priority, because the parking lot is a safety hazard.
Okay,
There's dips and there's settlement and there's continuous icing, no matter how much you salt, sand, and treat the parking lot. The winter, the heaves are, this big, so it's trip hazard. So if you ask me what's more important, I'm gonna say they're both equal.
okay,
We have to address the whole thing. That's gonna take the design, it's gonna take an engineer to figure out how we're gonna do this because of the floodplain issue. So that's something that's gonna take time to develop a plan for it. I've had preliminary conversations with people on it, but it's gonna take money to do that.
okay, I just know that, like I said, you've been talking about it for as long as I've been sitting up here, so I just want to, what's that?
Same thing with the park.
Right, well, yeah, but I'm gonna say, I was just trying to see how it was prioritized and stuff like that. And then could you just talk real quickly about the annex, the expansion bay? I know it wasn't budgeted, but can you throw that out there so we can get that on record, other than just in the budget?
Correct. So it's been requested for well over 10 years. We're looking to expand the annex building from 2 days to 5 days. Our thought process was, it's a wood frame, single-story structure that can be constructed relatively cheap. It can house all the motorized apparatus in the fire. Therefore, we can achieve a higher firefighter level of safety than having a vehicle exhaust system in that building for all the motorized apparatus. The 2 bays that we have in the main station that are not able to accept the vehicle exhaust system could then house our boat, which is currently stored outside in a conex box, in our hazmat trailer, which is currently stored outside as is. So our thought was expand that building. The fire company acquired some property over the last 2 years to allow that expansion to happen without getting a variance. And then we would be able to put the motorized apparatus there, have a vehicle exhaust system where it's required, and then proceed from there.
And then my last question on that topic is, you can get a building permit in that flood zone to put those extra bays on if the money was to become available?
We have to go through the process, and I understand it's an extensive process. It could take up to 2 years to get the permits required. It's going to require an engineer, and we've already secured an architect for ideas.
Okay,
But the money, I phased that approach in through my last several budget requests, that we start funding that at a level where we can get a design and a permit approved, make it shovel ready, so that when funding is available, whether it's from the city, the state, or whatever entity we get it from, we can just develop that plan.
understand. Thank you, Chief, I appreciate it.
Alderman Binkowitz? No? Okay, thank you. We're all set, Chief, thank you. Take care.
How's the new truck, Chief? Good?
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. It looks good out there.
The next budget is the Norwich Fire and Emergency Management. Chief Montoya? Yeah. This budget had a few challenges in it. As you know, it's subdivided into 2 sections. One is the area of the CCD, and then there's the general fund section. If you turn to page, what page? 87? 77. Page 77 are the numbers, and what you have here is the budget that is funded by the general fund part of the budget. I don't have any direct comments on this. I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I will start by saying that at the beginning of the budget season, we were asked to present as close to a flat budget from last year as we could, and that's what we did. I am pleased, as Chief Spalding was, with what I have, I might get less, so appreciate that. There are some concerns, which I'm sure your questions will lead me to discuss.
Members, Alderman Wilson.
So the first question I have, I'll ask you, just like I've asked every other department, with this budget, does it meet your department's goals? If yes, why? If not, why not?
I would say no, it doesn't meet our goals, and the reason why is the primary one is the capital cutting of squatting on we've been requesting for years. It's been our goal for a number of years to replace that. It's a primary piece of apparatus. It was the easiest piece of apparatus in the city. It's past due replacement. City fleet maintenance will testify to that. Our crews will testify to that. So that's the only really disappointment.
Okay, thank you with that. The other question I have is I'm looking at staffing-wise. When you look at I'm looking at the inspectors, for example, reduction in, of course, one compared to what you are requesting. So that was an additional position that you were requesting?
We have requested a board inspecting the office.
Okay, and just off, what would that have done for you staffing-wise?
Staffing in the fire marshal's office, with the nature of the workload there, has been understaffed for years. Our inspection numbers reflect that. The total number of inspectable occupancies in the city, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm behind in some inspections. We do our best with the staffing we have. We've had challenges over the past few years in terms of retirements, and injury leave and other things, but even when it's fully staffed, it's still understaffed.
Got it. That's all that I have at the moment. Thank you.
Alderman DeLucia.
Evening, Chief. Thank you for being here tonight. Is there anything in your line item budget or in your capital budget that you would like to highlight? That I would say the number one thing that is in your budget.
Well, I mentioned squad A and capital. The rest of the capital, I was pleased with overall. We have some issues at headquarters that we put in for, and those were approved or so far pushed through. And the line items for the general fund, as you know, year after year, the challenge for us is some replacement costs, the contractual obligations, the minimum staff, and things like that. Somehow we seem to always manage it, get close to managing. And again, this year there's a little reduction there from what was requested. So what we need to do to make it work, transfer from other line items towards the end of the fiscal year. Those are concerns that are always present. Looking down the list real quick on some of the other items that we've got, I understand, I understand the city's position and we'll work with them, and none of them are anything.
And then one specific question about your capital budget, and this is an item that was funded. It's a line item for a window replacement. Could you kind of lay this out? Because I know that we've got a project going on at headquarters, and so this additional 22, looks like 22.5. What would that be for?
Yes, sir. The project, which was just completed, we actually were waiting on a final walkthrough. We got to touch up a little paint. Only replaced 41 of the 50 windows. When they, sorry, I'll take off my mask now. I appreciate all the efforts that were done while I was deployed, and what they did with the window budget that was approved before, a couple of years combined, is they ended up downgrading the windows that we originally spec'd. So we paid more, and still that wasn't enough. A lot of windows in that building, many of them unsafe, so it's good to have the ones that we did get replaced. But again, there are still nine left that we need to that's what that balance is.
And I hesitate to ask this question, but is there any historic preservation concern with Greenville in terms of doing projects like this, a capital project like this?
Not with headquarters. If we were working on Greenville, I'd be concerned with that, but headquarters no, and the new windows are actually much nicer than the old ones, appearance-wise, aesthetically. We'll see how they hold up.
Thank you.
Alderman Nash?
Chief, I have to ask everybody, do you have a washer and a dryer?
We do.
You do, okay. And the other question I have, sort of real quickly, and again, it's because I've been sitting up here for a while, and I know that you've been asking for 14 years for Squad A. With the new study that came out and recommended that Squad A turn into an emergency-type vehicle versus the squad itself, I noticed that in the budget you had $720,000, which if experience shows me anything, it's $800,000. But would it be cheap, with your training and experience and time in the department, would it be cheaper to buy this emergency vehicle versus the squad? And is the squad that important that it needs to be replaced with another, I don't know, the engine or tank or whatever that vehicle is? Or can you live with an emergency vehicle versus that?
The first half of the question, yes, it would be cheaper, obviously, to replace it with a smaller vehicle. Is that operationally feasible for us? No.
Okay.
The squad is first due for downtown, this building itself. It's second due for every other area in the city. And it is, a pumper with a large capacity pump. And we would be hurting without that third engine in the city, the way we run operationally.
Great, thank you, Chief. I just wanted to get that out there. Thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Gould?
Chief Montoya, thank you for being here tonight. You're so soft-spoken. So the 22.5, that will complete the window project? You'll be done? Okay. I wasn't exactly sure, and I didn't want to interrupt, so I figured I would just ask. And the 8 set of turnout gear, that's on your normal schedule, and will all of your interior firefighters have 2 sets of gear?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. EMS?
Emergency management, I will go with the same sentiments for the fire comments on police. I know we're tightening belts all around, but it's a workable budget. No issues with that. It's a lot.
And the facility on McKinley?
We've made some changes over the past year. They did some while I was away, some since I've been back, in terms of upgrading some of the lighting and electric for economy reasons, changing the alarm system for less expensive and more serviceable system for us, monitoring-wise. There are some, it's an old building, and it wasn't designed as an energy-efficient building to begin with.
Right.
But it's meeting our needs. I think it's pretty solid right now.
Thank you. Others have questions on EMS? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
We're all set?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to use the restroom.
No. Request denied.
Sorry.
Pat down there? There he is. Just saw his arm swinging.
We're in the bullpen.
I just got here.
Good timing.
I figured
We're a little ahead.
I watched it on TV, we're ahead every year, so I figured if you're early, you guys have a nice night, baseball's on again. No questions, time to go.
Who cares? Baseball's dead.
This
We're
This
going to wait
budget
for Alderman Nash, please.
oh,
Yeah.
He stepped out
I
for a
didn't,
moment.
I didn't see it.
He had to move quickly on, from
We'll
what I
wait.
understand. Briskly.
Yeah, what's up?
It's on page 73, by the way.
Description 71.
$18 million. I mean,
Find everything okay?
Yeah, it was all good in there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. John, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Again, it's on, the budget numbers are on page 73. This budget does have a contract that runs the next few years, so the numbers that are in here are applicable to the third year of the contract, so that these numbers are accurate to the fiscal year that we're in. Unlike the fire department where we have potential changes in the contract in contingency. So this reflects a wage increase that is in the contract. One area that we've been working hard with the chief on to try to maintain the number is replacement cost. It was candidly underfunded in 1920. We ended up transferring quite a bit of money into it. I think we're right-sizing it now. We're at around 910,000 or so is a number that can be reached, and it's within the budget. So I think this is a realistic budget, and I'll defer to the chief for any comments that he might have.
Thank you, Mr. Salomon. I got to echo what Mr. Salomon said. This is a very fair budget. Usually I'll express concerns. I've never been hesitant to express concerns about some accounts. This looks like a budget that we can live within and still continue what we do without cutting back any initiatives or any of the services we provide. And I want to thank the comptroller and the city manager for their efforts. This is a back and forth. We've met many times. I had a lot of conversations to come up with this budget you see in front of you. And it reflects something where citizens will be well served in trying to maximize our service for the best value.
Questions, members? Alderman Bencourt, please.
Chief, could you tell me how many grant-funded positions you have right now?
We've been awarded a grant for 6 grant-funded positions, but because of the trouble we've had hiring, we haven't been able to fill those yet. So currently we have 6 vacancies from the city budget, and we won't fill any grant-funded positions until we get to that number. Actually, we can't fill any grant-funded positions until we get to that number.
So you're trying to hire 6 right now?
Right now.
But those, if you do hire them, they'll be grant-funded?
Those 6 will be hired out once the patrol force. The next 6 would be the grant-funded ones that go into the community policing unit for the project we talked of last year. We were on kind of a protest about kind of a hybrid DARE, officer schools, community relations model that we kind of developed on the fly from the feedback from the protest.
All right, so you're 6 down right now?
Right now.
And then you would hire 6 more on top of that would be grant-funded?
If we could.
If you can hire the 6.
That's a heavy lift, to be honest with you, and all candor. To get 12 in a year is probably a bridge too far. But we're going to move to it, obviously.
Yeah, you'd have a lot of people on training, you know?
A lot of people on training, FTOs, and it's just finding the people, to be honest with you. We're burning through people. It used to be when Bill and my era and Joe's era, probably 1 to 10. 10 applicants to get for an officer. Now we're pushing like 1 to 30. And the tests, although the tests are full, our lists are usually from that 20 to 30. And that list is the same list that the whole region fights off of. So we're kind of all fishing from the same pond.
Okay, so currently what you're telling me is you don't have any grant-funded positions?
Yes, no. One answer to a short question.
That's not to insult our corporation counsel, but there would be, a corporation counsel response, so that's.
No, it wasn't so certain.
No, that's good. Thank you, Chief.
Alderman Gould.
Good evening, Chief Daley. Thank you for being here tonight. I have 3 questions, please. Regional Animal Services, $124,000. That's the new deal with Northeast Council of Governments. Okay. And are we expecting that will save us some money in the long run, keep us flat?
So if I keep this flat, though, some like long-term workers' comp issues, a lot of it, exposure to issues like that, that lawsuits, potential thing like that, would give us a little resolution off of.
Okay.
If I may add, Councilor Gould, I think it'll give us a little better service. We'll have more backup, and that's a significant thing. We'll keep the cost flat, and we'll have more availability of
They're going to respond after
individuals.
hours.
Okay.
This proposal from them covers 2 full-time ACOs. When we did it, it was full-time and part-time. So there's going to be more coverage. I'm sorry, there's 100% accurate on that.
Okay. Second question, you got a large bump in your communications line item.
Yes.
Can you tell us what we're planning to do with that, or is this a contractual?
It's contractual, it's our maintenance agreement with the state radio system that caused that. And last year, we had a year of grace, like the first year's free.
Okay,
But it's like about $80,000 payment, if memory serves me correct, that we do every year for maintenance. Now, what does maintenance get you? It gets us a 24-hour service. It gets us that if the radio burns out, we replace a new one, upgrades are included. And so you pay up front, but maintenance and replacement is included.
okay. And my last question, in your capital budget, what is crime scene mapping hardware and software, please?
It's a new program that's out there. It's using the same lasers that you use for speed detection to map crime scenes, and then make 3D drawings of crime scenes. By crime scenes also mean accident scenes. It's like a LiDAR type situation. It's the state of the art, becoming the industry standard for crime scene mapping. The state police does it for murders. We don't use it we can't use it. They won't come out and do it for car accidents because of the number of car accidents we have. But my fear is that as the state police are also going to staffing roles, the ability of the major crime squad to come out for serious assaults and potentially fatal investigations may be drawn back. So we want to get it in now and get trained on so we don't have provide bad service. We don't want to lose a case on a fully investigated crime or crime. We all know today about everyone expects, the all CSI factor, and that's what they kind of expect. And this program will do it, and it does it very quickly. It's like I said, it's industry standard. But we got to get it first before we can get it.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that, how many officers will need to go to training for this?
We'll have the training come in. Obviously, the expense is $70,000. I would like to see if we can deal with the factory and get someone to come in. But there's going to be some training expenses, because what I'm envisioning is having several officers trained as crime scene techs, which means, say there's a assault, one, a stabbing, or a risk of death. The detectives will come in and work on the criminal investigation, when it comes to processing the crime scene. These other officers will come in, much like they do with the fatal accident, and they'll do crime scene processing, photographs, and then do the mapping with this. It's kind of a bonus to the officers to get more people involved, because it's training and also want to do training. And it also allows the detectives to get at it. It's been a while since which is good, since we had a nasty whodunit case, and you have a whodunit, it's all hands on deck, and we don't have time to devote 4 or 5 people to do the crime scene the way it should be. So this way, we're going to be doing it. So we're going to try to bring training in, pay for the instructor to come to us instead of sending people all over the place. But we're just in the front stages of the process of fleshing that out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderman Nash.
I think that mapping thing will be cool, because I remember doing fatal car accidents with the wheel and tying it into a fire hydrant.
And then the
It's-
paper.
Chief, I got a couple questions. Last year, how many vehicles did you get?
We ended up with 5.
5. And this year, you're getting 6? Okay, good. The radio situation, since we talked about the radios, how is the new system working?
Phenomenal.
So everyone's, are there still dead spots, or?
No.
Okay, so the budget money we
One
spent.
slight dead spot in Quantic School, very small. We know it.
So money well spent.
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
definitely.
Then you mentioned it briefly, and then I wanted to get into it because you know it's something that is near and dear to me, but you had mentioned SRO, DARE, and the community officers. How are we doing? Do we have SROs? Do we have DARE? What's going on with that?
No, but we do have a very, the officers we do have assigned to community policing, although they're a shadow of what the unit should be, they're very, very good. So over the summer, we're going to task them to develop the curriculum as we get to full staff and start moving to the grant funded positions that we're ready to roll out our program. And those officers here will have some type of presence in the school in the next school year, but not the model we're looking for. We're looking for that model we spoke of right after the protest, where the officers, the community police officers on days will be assigned to schools to teach a curriculum they come up with. Scooter safety, we had a scooter fatality last year. Water safety, road safety, rules of the road. What's killing our population? Drug awareness, heroin awareness. Look at how our kids in Norwich are getting injured and developing a curriculum there that can have some value to them. Kind of using the DARE model, but not exactly that can, all right, listen one, listen two, listen three. We have a really smart police department, and we can come up with our own version of it, and it does the best for the citizens of Norwich.
Well, I just want to remind you that, I mean, I've been retired since 2003, and a day does not go by where I don't run into a former DARE student that was thankful there was the DARE program. So something, get it back. Something that's a hybrid, whatever, get it back in there. But
You were there, and Alderman Wilson were there in front of the police department. The crowd was there. That's where this idea came from.
Yeah, great.
Loud and clear when I saw Officer Nash, Officer Nash, this Officer Nash, we have a relationship that people you met in 5th grade now, 15 years later, still 20 years later.
yeah, they're working at the Coast Guard, for God's sake. I see them come through the main gate. The other question I have is, you got the generators all set?
Generator is, there's still going to be $116,000 short for the generator. It's a big expense, and I think funding over 2 years is wise. Gives us a little bit of time to work on some more grants. We were in line for a grant that all went to the final, step 7 of a 7-step process, and it got pulled back, and then much to the chagrin, I can't thank North Public Utilities, their grant writer, worked very hard on it, but we got to take it back. But there are some other state assets with grants we can review. That last $160,000, and I'll give some time. I thought this tonight, in case it did come up, maybe we go out before the budget entry for an RFP, so we can get an actual hard number, so we're not short or long. Just trying to, so we get a true number that's going to cost us.
And then my last question, since we do have people watching from home, and a lot of them don't see capital improvement, they don't see budgets, can you give me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being great, 10 being the worst, the status of your building and the way you fit in it and the way that it operates for the police department's operation?
We're a solid 3 or 4.
So you're good.
No,
1 is good, 10 is bad.
7 or 8.
7 or 8, okay. Because I know it's a big budget, $30 million, a lot of money, but
It is, and I'm hoping, every time I talk to poor Congressman Courtney, I say, hey, police stationed in the public building should be considered infrastructure. And if you run into that, please feel free to chime in, because, bonding's tough in this town where you have to go to the voters for referendums. It's tough to get really big projects bonded. And I hope our federal partners understand that in an urban environment such as Norwich, it's tough to get a big project like that to the voters. And it's a big chunk of change for the VA, lifetime to return. One of my concerns in coming up to the fire study, we're talking about dispatch positions and adding other things in, and we're getting tight for space. And to move the dispatch center out of the police department, anything's possible, but how many zeros you want to put on the check? You got to move all the radio circuits, all the infrastructure from 78th Street. And that probably become cost prohibitive, but space is getting tight.
I just wanted to get that out there, so, because I know we lost a referendum on it.
We lost the referendum in 2012.
Yeah. So people need to know where we are.
We looked at a multitude of options. We've never stopped looking at other options. The city manager will tell you, I probably come over at least twice a year with a really harebrained scheme.
I'm sure it's not harebrained.
Wing nut.
It's just, the need's there, but it's tough right now to get support in the economic crisis.
Thank you, Chief. I'm all set, man. Thank you.
Alderman Delucia.
I think we just saw why Alderman Nash will never be a judge on Dancing with the Stars. It's the other way around, 1 to 10.
Well, it's going with the pain scale
Right.
from the doctor, you know.
At least we can laugh about
Should
it.
have held up a sign.
Chief, with regard to the 6 cruisers that are in your capital budget, and notice that the price point's $44,000 each. Is that us transitioning to SUVs?
We're being forced into SUVs. We're being forced into SUVs, and Ford had a complete redesign. The Ford SUVs you see now, if you're a car person, you realize they have different lines on the Ford SUVs. That's a completely different vehicle from the Ford Explorer, which is the base model of the SUVs we have now, to the other ones. So what that did is took all our cruiser brackets, cages, bench seats, and made them obsolete. So every time we have to outfit a cruiser, you have to buy all new equipment for it. Now that'll move on until Ford gets us again, when we go to a different manufacturer, but either way. But my concern is, I think I have it here. The price increases in 19 to 20, the base price of a cruiser went up $3,000, and 20 to 21 went up $2,207. So that's 2 model years, it's gone up $5,200. And that's before we have to add all the other stuff on. So if you see the price point controller caught it, that's why. And then on top of it, for this year, we have to get a cage at 2,000, push part 600, console 500, graphics 550. We upfit the cars now, so the computer's equipped at 3,000. And it's just, we have to buy all new stuff, so that this year is going to be a little bit higher per unit. It's going to continue to be a whole cycle through.
Thank you.
Alderman Wilson.
So, just kind of like a reiteration, so kind of moving forward, we'll be getting rid of the cars, and we'll be going more to SUVs. Okay.
We tried to, the goal, it started with John Raymond, he was the advocate for it, getting the cars out of our fleet around 100,000 miles. Ford had, we purchased the cars under warranty, powertrain included, so the engine blows at 97,000 miles, it doesn't cost us a penny, and it's happened. And it's usually in the high 90s. So we try to get them out of service. So the sedans are already approaching, some are over that threshold, so the sedans will disappear probably within the next, I'd say 8 months or so, that you see the sedans just go. There are a couple that have just 4 mileage, but then there's also
And again, the only other thing that I have is kind of echoing Alderman Nash's sentiments about the station. I've spent extensive time serving on the police station committee. So I know extensively the work we've done to even scale back the project, and I understand, you know, even as you talk about, you know, the advances in using equipment spaces, for example, I know even the evidence and forensics area, you know, so as we're talking enhancing technology and equipment and things of that sort, spacing becomes optimal piece, so that is something that we definitely understand, so thank you.
If no one, just one thing in closing, I just want to highlight the last year your police department's been through. We went through a pandemic, protesting to zeros for 4 days. Your police department came to work every day. You did a great job out there. I'm immensely proud of the men and women of the police department. I'm sure everybody is here too. But I just want to take this forum as the people at home to say, you have every right to be so proud of your police department. You know, we came through some very, very challenging times in the last 12 months with flying colors, and I can't be, you know, I can't express, words can't express how proud I am of the service they gave. I just want to give them a quick shout out here since people are listening.
Still? Go ahead.
I will say, I echo that sentiment. You know, I did, even during the pandemic, took the opportunity to do right along with several of your officers, and the way that they take care of the community, each other, definitely is evident. Taking care of equipment, just the pride that they take in themselves, even with everything going on, is very admirable. And I think the part that is most changing or improved that, you know, we continue to see evolve over each of the last few years is that communication piece with the community. I mean, the work that your officers and even the community policing unit is doing in the community to make a difference goes tenfold a long way right now. So it's definitely appreciated.
I can't echo it enough, and Alderman Beckford always used to say community policing is a philosophy, it's the department-wide, and it is. Community policing gets the press, but it starts and ends with the patrol officers that are doing out there, and they did a good job, you know. It's tough when people walk up and want to talk about policing or nationwide issues. The officers, every one of them did a really good job getting through this, and I can't say enough about it.
Alderman Betancourt.
And by and large, I think I'd agree, especially, you know, with what happened this past year. I think really is a tribute to the amount of time your staff put in, you know, trying to work with the community. So thank you for that, and thank them for me, and us. But with that said, the issue with NECOG, with the animal control, where are we at with that right now?
Animal control?
Yeah.
We are just about complete. The holdup was the settlement that we had with the employee that's been rectified. So until we had solved that problem, we couldn't move forward. That's done. And we had to get, we're selling our vehicles to them, so we had to negotiate prices on that. I believe we're just about ready to go now at this point.
The union, we have to, you know, get an agreement with the union, but the finish line's in sight.
Yeah, what do you need, a memorandum or something, or? Yeah, all right. So the other question I have is about the operation itself. So NECOG is going to operate it, or are they contracting to someone else to operate it?
No, they operate it themselves.
So are they employees of NECOG, or are
Yes.
they? Okay. That would be, you know, I was someone from Montville, a councilman from Montville asked me about this stuff, because they were wondering about signing up, you know, so.
It's not being privatized, and that's one of the reasons why we got a really good deal from NECOG. They want to get into southeastern Connecticut. Colchester was dancing around, if you remember, back in the day.
Right.
And Norwich, being the hub of eastern Connecticut, is a good spot for them to expand south to other places.
All right, so NECOG is going to be the operator, and the people that work there are going to be the employees of NECOG?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else? Chief? Oh, sorry.
Just one comment
Go
I'd like to
ahead.
make, because we gave a lot of accolades to the men and women of the Norwich Police Department who are in the trenches. But it starts at the top with leaders. We have to have leaders who inspire our patrol officers to do good work. So while we have to commend the men and women in the trenches, you don't get that without great
It
leaders.
starts with the sergeant, continues to the lieutenant, the captain, and the whole.
Right, so we're really lucky here in the city of Norwich.
Yes, I would totally agree.
And it proves it, because so many communities want our people. That's the thing that if one of the things you face is we lose quality people to other departments because they see the quality of the Norwich officers, especially the leadership, so kudos.
Chief, thank you. I'm going to close by saying to you what I say to your men and women every time I see them. Thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Just a reminder that we'll continue the budget hearings on April 12th, which is Monday, and we have a pretty full schedule that night. So next Monday is our next budget workshop.
Can we get some cookies and